Before he drove gloriously on the Fury Road, before he faced Aunty Entity and went beyond Thunderdome, and even before they called him the Road Warrior, he was simply a man named Max, who went mad. Networks will put just about anything on television these days. In 1979, director George Miller and producer Byron Kennedy brought a new hero into the world of cinema with Mad Max. A revenge drama based around an Australian cop in a not-too-distant future, Miller's debut feature showcased his early skills at showcasing high-octane action sequences, narratively precise storytelling, and visually stunning imagery. From a naked dating show to documenting a woman's 600-pound life, nothing is too outrageous for viewers anymore. The more extreme the better, and if you want some serious bonus points, throw in some shocking storylines. Mad Max was here, and there was no going back. But what really happened behind the scenes during the making of this gonzo action spectacle? How did George Miller and his ragtag team of Aussie filmmakers come up with the idea for this close-to-dystopian action bonanza? How did they find Mel Gibson to star as the titular crazy cop? And how dangerous was it to actually film these death-defying stunts? It's time to start your engines and blare those sirens, because we're taking a look at what you don't know about 1979's Mad Max. George Miller's medical past on most movie sets that are dangerous. You're likely going to want to have a doctor or medical team handy for any mishaps that might take place during production. But Mad Max had something up its sleeve to one-up all other film sets, a director with his own history of medical experience. That's right, before becoming a filmmaker, George Miller spent his early years working in the emergency room at St. Throughout television history, there have always been those moments and characters that were extra controversial. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, Australia. During his time working in this profession, Miller witnessed many victims of automobile and other vehicular accidents firsthand, providing a form of twisted inspiration for the kinds of incidents that would take place in the Mad Max films. It was this early empathetic view into the world of medicine and human care that likely shaped the rest of Miller's career, and informed him of the barbaric damage that can be done to the human body all for the sake of a few cheap thrills. Miller and Kennedy prep for a feature. George Miller was the man in the director's chair, but any and all success that the Mad Max series has enjoyed must be shared with his co-producer Byron Kennedy. Here are a few of the most memorable. Game of Thrones. Sexual assault. Game of Thrones is no stranger to controversy, but one season 5 scene left fans calling for a boycott. The late, great co-producer of Mad Max and Mad Max 2, Kennedy served as the second set of brains behind bringing this action-packed masterpiece to the big screen. After meeting at a film workshop at Melbourne University, Miller and Kennedy first collaborated on the short film Violence in the Cinema, Part 1, which, per the title, offers a loving tribute, parody, and dissection of the world of movie violence. The short garnered acclaim across the country, and gave Kennedy and Miller the confidence to not only start their own production company, which they aptly named Kennedy Miller, but to embark on their first feature production. Sansa Stark, played by Sophie Turner, was sexually assaulted on her wedding night by her new husband Ramsay Bolton, who also forces Sansa's childhood friend, Theon Greyjoy, to watch from the corner. Although Kennedy tragically passed away in a helicopter crash in 1983, George Miller has kept on producing under the Kennedy-Miller production banner. Tough to watch? Yes. Tough to act out? Apparently not. Kennedy's legacy also lives on in the form of the Byron Kennedy Award, which has been handed out annually since 1984 to honor outstanding creative enterprise within the film and television industries, whose work embodies the qualities of Byron Kennedy: innovation, vision, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. The story for Mad Max was inspired by a real-world crisis, while the later Mad Max films would delve into the fantasies of a post-apocalyptic society run amok. This wasn't exactly where the ideas started out for the germination of this story. "I kinda loved it. It was all so messed up," Turner revealed to Entertainment Weekly. The Newsroom. Campus rape. In HBO's The Newsroom, Don, played by Thomas Sadowski, went to a college campus to pre-interview a female student who had created a website to out rapists anonymously after she was raped herself. When George Miller and former journalist James McCausland set out to create this world of roving bikers and cops out for revenge, there was actually some helpful real-world inspiration to get their wheels turning.
Arguably their greatest influence was the 1973 global oil crisis, when shutoffs to international oil exports led to vast oil shortages all over Australia. Don is supposed to find out more information about the woman, but he ends up discouraging her from going on his news show to tell her story and debate her attacker. Miller and McCausland noted long lines of Australian motorists lining up for gas, and started to extrapolate what might happen if this desire for fossil fuel was taken to a disturbingly dangerous degree. That impetus for greed, power, and control steered the way for the story of Mad Max to truly take shape. How Mel Gibson became Mad Max. He'd go on to become one of the most famous, and then infamous, film stars in the world, but before all the blockbusters that made him instantly recognizable to moviegoers, Mel Gibson earned his action hero stripes in Mad Max. After his debut in the initial Mad Max film, which was only his second credited feature film role, he would cement his glory in the next two Mad Max features while landing starring roles in a wide variety of films that included action hits like the Lethal Weapon franchise as well as comedies like What Women Want. When looking for actors for Mad Max, Miller and his team called in a group of recent graduates from the National Institute of Dramatic Art to try out for the menacing young men who populate the film. Luckily, Gibson was among these recent grads, and legend has it, he would go out and get beat up in fights the nights before auditions so that he could come in looking tough. This led to an attack on series creator, Aaron Sorkin, and his stance on the issue. Legend or reality, Gibson got himself the role of a lifetime, and got the ball rolling on this adventure once and for all. A biker gang that played itself building up to the maniacal warboys of Fury Road, the original Mad Max is still plenty chaotic with Toe Cutter and his rampaging biker gang that spread fear and violence wherever they go. According to the New York Times, viewers felt Sorkin was victim-blaming women and showing more concern about the after-effects of a man who was wrongly accused of rape. Sons of Anarchy, elementary school shooting. There are a lot of over-the-top, gruesome, is this really happening scenes in Sons of Anarchy. But when a young boy brings a KG-9 machine gun to his elementary school, opening fire on his classmates and teachers, that's when fans thought the show really crossed a line. The episode aired just 9 months after the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. While the Sons scene hit a little too close to home, series creator Kurt Sutter insisted the storyline was really the catalyst for the final act of our morality play. Ellen, the coming-out episode in April 1997, Ellen DeGeneres and her sitcom, The Ellen Show, changed television history when her character, also named Ellen and based on herself, came out on national television. They're an integral part of building Miller's world of future-ish Australia, where the rules of society are beginning to crumble and characters like the Knight Rider and Johnny the Boy are able to go as wild as they do. There's a good reason these men are as menacing as they appear in Mad Max. They were members of an actual biker gang. The majority of extras used in the film were members of outlaw motorcycle clubs in Australia, providing an even greater sense of authenticity to the shoot. Even though she'd only publicly come out a few days earlier in Time magazine, it was still a risky move for the late 90s. Only a handful of scripted shows starred gay characters, and the approval rating for gay marriage was at a low 27%. Miller even asked them to use their own bikes and ride them all the way from Sydney to Melbourne, as their budget couldn't allow for aerial transport. Not a very glamorous beginning, but the trip was worth it to bring that extra bit of grit and reality to the fantastical madness of Miller's vision. One of the original leading actors got injured right before filming with Mel Gibson set to star as Max. It wasn't long before the rest of the stellar cast was thrown together. The ensemble Miller assembled around his star consisted of a heap of Australia and New Zealand native performers, including Hugh Keys-Byrne as the villain Toe Cutter, Steve Bisley as Max's partner Goose, Jonathan Hardy as Police Commissioner Labatouche, and, initially, Rosie Bailey as Max's wife, Jessie Rakitansky. Fate had something else in mind, it seems, as 4 days into shooting, Bailey was involved in a motorcycle accident that left her unable to complete the film. Setting production back multiple weeks, Bailey's role was eventually recast with Joanne Samuel, bringing a courageous edge, not to mention a mean saxophone, to what could have been a throwaway role. Advertisers reportedly started pulling their ads from the show, although only Chrysler admitted to it, citing a corporate policy to avoid controversial clients. While it wasn't the popular thing to do at the time, Ellen said she didn't do it to make herself a standard-bearer for the gay community, she just had to do it for herself. Married. With children, Al and Peg Bundy's relationship when married. Just goes to show that not even a replacement in casting could put a stop to Miller and his team and their mission to bring this story to the screen. A production shoot that was guerrilla filmmaking madness. Would you be surprised to hear that the filming of Mad Max was just as chaotic, dangerous, and, well, maddening as the action of the film itself? Being a low-budget, below-the-radar, ultra-violent mess of a production, much of the filmmaking reflected that ragtag style of putting things together, all of it unfolding over the span of a crammed-together 6-week shoot. From closing roads without proper permits, not being able to use proper walkie-talkies so as not to get tangled with police radio interference, and police outfits having to be made out of vinyl rather than real leather, to the general chaos that comes from having to film a series of real-life car crashes and having to wreck piles upon piles of cars, the filming of Mad Max would likely make a worthy entry into the Mad Max saga all on its own. An editing process done in cramped quarters. What do you picture when you think about the post-production and editing process for a film? Maybe it's a bunch of filmmakers sitting behind a desk, looking at a series of computer monitors while cutting and pasting footage together. With Children premiered in 1987, the Bundy family was very different than the picture-perfect Klan's America was so used to seeing. If only Miller and his crew were so lucky. For much of their editing process, the work had to take place in cramped living rooms and smaller than ideal accommodations. Working out of a friend's apartment on a homemade editing rig, Miller would cut the film itself in the living room while the sound editing crew cut sound in the kitchen, a process that amounted to a further unspooling of madness in the pursuit of getting this film completed. Al and Peg weren't afraid to call out each other's flaws. Al constantly called Peg a horrible housewife, mother, and cook, while Peg was there to let her husband know just how inadequate he was as the man of the house. Though the crew was stuck in close company with each other, it all ended up being worth it to put together the film that would soon launch Miller's stellar career, along with a franchise that continues to thrill fans decades later. The film was banned in New Zealand and Sweden even as it became a huge box office success in its own home country of Australia, with something of a less than stellar release in the States. Not everyone was thrilled to welcome the ultra-violent antics of Mad Max into their cinemas. In one of Australia's closest neighbouring nations, New Zealand, the film was initially banned upon its release due to overwhelming similarities between events depicted in the movie and a real-life incident in which someone was burned alive in their car. For one Michigan woman, Terry Ricolta, this relationship was not even close to being acceptable. In 1989, Ricolta started a letter-writing campaign encouraging viewers and advertisers to boycott the show after an episode showed Al and Steve searching for a bra at a store whose motto was, "If you've got the boulders, we've got the holders." All in the Family, Archie Bunker. All in the Family was that realistic look into the 70s blue-collar lifestyle that some Americans had never seen before. The film would eventually be released there in 1983, after the success of Mad Max 2. Its reputation in Sweden, however, lasted for quite a while longer. There was no specific scene that caused the ban there, rather just an all-around distaste for the excessive violence of the film that kept Swedish audiences from enjoying the feature for decades. It wasn't until 2005 that the nation decided to finally lift the ban and let Max roam free in Sweden along with the rest of the world. Critics didn't go mad for Max even with its bold vision, brilliant stunts, and heart-stopping action. The general response to Mad Max upon release in Australia was anything but rapturous. The show covered many hot-button issues like sex, politics, and race, but there was one controversial character who topped it all, Archie Bunker. For The Bulletin, Australian commentator Philip Adams described the film as having all the emotional uplift of Mein Kampf, and added that it would be a special favourite of rapists, sadists, child murderers and incipient Charles Mansons.
Hardly the kind of reviews you'd like to get for your debut feature, but surely the American critics wouldn't be as harsh as their Australian counterparts. Actually, they were even harsher. Archie was a bigot, prejudiced against anyone who wasn't born in America, and disregarded anyone who did not agree with his conservative ideals. With his blatant sexism and frequent use of racial epithets, Bunker always seemed to be pushing the envelope just a little bit more in every episode. South Park, showing an image of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. South Park is not afraid to go there. But when the show's creators, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, tried using an image of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, it was like all hell broke loose. Prior to the episode airing on Comedy Central, the network banned the showrunners from using a visual of the Prophet, which was reportedly due to safety concerns. This did not make Stone or Parker happy campers, so rather than showing a picture of Muhammad, they posted a message on-screen reading, "Comedy Central has refused to broadcast an image of Muhammad on their network." Dexter inspired real-life murders. In January 2014, 21-year-old Englishman Mark Howe was found guilty of the murder of his mother after a jury determined he had slipped into her bedroom late at night and used a 12-inch knife to slash her more than 50 times around the face, throat and chest. He dumped the weapon and claimed to know nothing of the attack, but it soon became clear that Howe was not only guilty, but that he had been inspired to commit the murder by a TV show. An examination of his internet history revealed that he searched for Dexter's kill knife, as well as, what does a sociopath need to do to blend in seamlessly with society, underlining his fascination with the TV serial killer and creating a debate over whether the show should be taken off the air. It wasn't the first murder to be blamed on Showtime's hit crime drama. Upon its American release, Tom Buckley of The New York Times deemed the film ugly and incoherent, and in his nonfiction collection Danse Macabre, Stephen King outright called the film a turkey. They say all press is good press, but it's hard to imagine George Miller being happy with the initial critical reaction to Mad Max. The film was redubbed for its US in 2008. Aspiring Canadian filmmaker Mark Twitchell, who had been going under the name Dexter Morgan on Facebook, lured two men to his home under the pretense of making a horror film about a sword-wielding mass murderer. Twitchell killed one of the men, the other managed to escape. Dexter has had female mimickers too, the most notorious being S&M practitioner Jessica Lopez, who strangled a woman and attempted to chop her up, like the show's protagonist. Seinfeld, Puerto Rican Day Parade. Seinfeld was always a show that wasn't afraid to push the boundaries of good taste in search of a laugh, though one episode crossed the line between humor and bigotry, according to Bronx Borough President Fernando Ferrer. Release many films add an English-language dub for US. He was one of numerous viewers of Puerto Rican heritage to be offended by a plot that saw the main characters caught up in a traffic jam caused by the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Jerry, Elaine, George and Kramer come to a halt on their way back from a Mets game and waste no time in angering those enjoying the parade. Kramer accidentally sets a Puerto Rican flag on fire with a sparkler and then proceeds to stomp it out on the ground, causing angry bystanders to toss their car down a stairwell. "It's like this every day in Puerto Rico," proclaims Kramer. Both the comment and the flag burning provoked outrage, with Manuel Minabel, president of National Puerto Rican Coalition, calling it an unquestionable insult to the country and demanding an apology from NBC. The network quickly complied. Skins US the Viagra episode won UK screenings if they're made in a foreign language, but Mad Max might be one of the only films that was made in English and still ended up getting redubbed for its American release. Upon its initial US television shows are remade for American audiences, it isn't uncommon to hear complaints that the British did it better. While reworking Skin's third episode, Chris, the writers of the MTV-produced US release in 1980, the entire film's dialogue track was redubbed to give the film's characters American accents. This included instances of removing Australian slang, and general attempts to make the film sound more comprehensible to American audiences, even if the voices sounded inauthentic out of these actors' mouths. Reboot decided the best way to go was to copy the original shot for shot, though in doing so they inadvertently caused a child pornography controversy. The episode in question features a 17-year-old boy ingesting a large dose of Viagra and running down the street with his erection on show to the world, though only his behind is visible to the viewer, which UK producers could get away with, seeing as how the age of consent in Britain is 16. This isn't the case in the States. The Parents Television Council was quick to react, insisting that the Department of Justice open an investigation into what they deemed the exploitation of minors on Skins. After the film caught on and spawned the blockbuster franchise we know and love today, the original dub was eventually brought to the US, providing audiences with a proper glimpse as to how the film was supposed to sound, with every oi and see looks intact. Mel Gibson won the Australian Oscar in 1979. Fearing they would be breaking federal child pornography statutes by airing the episode, MTV executives relented and ordered it to be changed. "Heil Honey I'm Home" Hitler as sitcom star. Some of Britain's greatest exports have been created at the UK's famous Pinewood Studios, from entries in the long-running James Bond franchise to the hugely successful Harry Potter series. Not everything that comes out of the world-renowned Buckinghamshire studio is guaranteed to be a success, however, and one of the most unusual British sitcoms of all time is proof. Jeff Atkinson's Heil Honey I'm Home was supposed to follow a reimagined version of Adolf Hitler and his partner Eva Braun as they deal with living next door to fictional Jewish couple Arnie and Rosa Goldenstein, though the show fell right out of the gate. The Board of Deputies of British Jews labelled the sitcom anti-Semitic, and the now-defunct Galaxy Channel was forced to pull it after just a single pilot episode. The show is often ranked among the most tasteless ever created, but Atkinson has always insisted his intentions were misunderstood. But not for Mad Max. While Fury Road was the first entry in the Mad Max saga to achieve any sort of Academy Award recognition, including 6 wins, and additional nominations for Best Director and Best Picture, the original Mad Max still had its fair share of awards recognition at Australia's very own Film Awards ceremony, then known as the AFI but today known as the AACTA Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts, Awards, where it received 7 nominations including for Best Film and Best Direction and racked up 3 wins for Editing, Original Music Score, and Sound. The same year, leading man Mel Gibson did indeed win a Best Actor award at the ceremony, for an entirely different film. Gibson wasn't even nominated for his turn in Mad Max, instead being recognized and rewarded for his other lead film role that year, in the romantic drama Tim, playing the dramatic role of a developmentally challenged builder's worker. Though global fame eluded him for this particular role, there's no question which of Gibson's roles in 1979 would forever live in the worldwide audience's imagination. Toecutter would go on to play Immortan Joe in Fury Road more than 3 decades after his directing debut. George Miller returned to the world of Mad Max with a film that is widely recognized as one of the best action movies of all time. After Heil Honey I'm Home was unceremoniously cancelled, its creator argued, "Sometimes you can destroy bullies by laughing at them. This isn't about denying what happened, it's about being human in the face of inhumanity." Family Guy. The abortion episode Family Guy is another show that has invited accusations of anti-Semitism thrown at it in the past, though Season 3 episode, When You Wish Upon a Weinstein, struck a particular nerve with a number of viewers. Mad Max, Fury Road took Miller's wide-eyed aspirations as a young filmmaker and transformed them into an apocalyptic descent into action Valhalla. While there's a huge difference between Fury Road and the original Mad Max in terms of production value, one element they do share is a key actor in both films, Hugh Keys-Byrne, perhaps better known today for his performance as the devilishly disgusting Immortan Joe in Fury Road. The episode in which Peter kidnaps a stranded Jewish man and sets him to work handling his money, was finally aired on Fox 4 years after the rest of the season, though the network refused to relent when it came to Season 8 finale, Partial Terms of Endearment. The so-called abortion episode was made but rejected, with Fox exercising their right not to air it and instead releasing it as a standalone DVD that played on the episode's notoriety. His delightfully villainous performance there had its origins back in the original Mad Max, in which he starred as the lead villain, Toecutter. While certainly quite a bit older, and with a starkly different look, you won't be catching Toecutter in a mask anytime soon. Keys-Byrne's commitment to embodying the scum of villainy and chaos in the Mad Max universe has solidified this action saga as one of the finest pieces of filmmaking of the last half-century. George Miller's winding road to Mad Max 2 with the release of Mad Max, and the mixed but altogether lively reception and commotion around it, offers from Hollywood started to roll in for George Miller fairly quickly. According to unconfirmed legend, one of the potential projects that might have been most intriguing to Miller was the offer to direct the next big Sylvester Stallone movie, First Blood, another film that, although few could have suspected it at the time, would also go on to jumpstart a highly successful and long-running action franchise. Whether or not that story's actually true, we do know that after Mad Max was released, Miller spent quite a bit of time trying to write and develop his next project, Roxanne, a movie that, much to his chagrin, ended up languishing in development hell for years before he finally gave up on getting it made. It was a decision that creator Seth MacFarlane saw as a cop-out aimed at placating conservative viewers. "Times really have changed," he argued. "The network is making a decision that is, unfortunately, probably based on people's current ability to handle and dissect controversial narratives. The X-Files, incest episode Family Guy isn't the only Fox show that has fallen victim to the network's censorship rules. Classic sci-fi series The X-Files also had an episode banned for inappropriate content, with the taboo topic in this instance being incest. Home was the first ever X-Files episode to begin with a viewer discretion warning and remained the only one to carry a TVMA rating, which it most certainly deserved. The episode opens with a baby being buried, a shot that director Kim Manners described as the most awful of his career. After much deliberation, Miller realized that with his first flush of success, he could return to the world of Mad Max with a bigger budget, a bigger vision, and a bigger sense of destruction to bring to the silver screen. From there the plot follows Mulder and Scully as they investigate a secluded farmhouse after an abandoned baby is found nearby, and what they discover are three brothers, the younger two fathered by the eldest via their mother. Fox removed the episode from syndication and only repeated it once as part of a 1999 Halloween special, advertising it as an episode so controversial, it's been banned from television for 3 years. Two Broke Girls. Graphic content screenwriter Michael Patrick King certainly never shied away from using language that many would consider crude during his time working on Sex and the City, though he seems to have been saving his most colorful work for his own show, Two Broke Girls. Thus he threw himself back into the dystopia of his own making and brought Mad Max 2, or The Road Warrior, out into the world, and the rest is futuristic, hard-hitting cinematic history. The CBS sitcom follows the exploits of two New York waitresses as they attempt to start their own cupcake business, but many viewers find the pair far from sweet. A Freedom of Information request revealed in detail the nature of the complaints sent to the FCC about the show's content, with one concerned mother urging the authorities to review an episode that depicts naked dolls being manipulated into graphic sexual acts. She wasn't the only complainant looking for the primetime show to be censored. In fact, one Texas viewer urged a complete review of TV censorship laws. From constant comments about sexual positions and ejaculation in every orifice to menstrual cycles in much more vulgar terms, Two Broke Girls is unrelenting, reads their complaint. I don't know when TV censorship died in this country, but we need it back. The Simpsons, blamed by Rio. Unlike South Park and Family Guy, The Simpsons ordinarily takes a more subtle approach to lampooning its targets, which, for the most part, lie in Middle America. One of the few times they poked fun at another nation almost wound up causing a diplomatic incident. The episode, Blame It on Lisa, a play on the title of 1984 film Blame It on Rio, saw the Simpsons head to Brazil in search of an orphan that Lisa has been sponsoring, though the family get themselves in all manner of trouble upon arrival. Homer is kidnapped by a rogue cabbie, he and Bart are mugged by children, and the pair are also attacked by monkeys, all of which brought a distortion of Brazilian reality to the screen, according to the country's president at the time, Fernando Henrique Cardoso. The Rio Tourism Board also chipped in on the debate over the episode, claiming that the $18 million it had recently spent on promoting the city in the States was now wasted and that the airing of the episode would have drastic consequences for travel to the city. Too Close for Comfort. Monroe's Rape. Too Close for Comfort was a 70s sitcom based on British show Keep It in the Family, created specifically for Mary Tyler Moore co-star Ted Knight. It premiered on ABC in 1980 with Knight in the role of San Franciscan Henry Rush, a highly strung cartoonist living with his wife, two daughters and a male lodger named Monroe, who was the focus of controversial 1985 episode, For Every Man, There's Two Women. The episode begins with Monroe, Jim J. Bullock, a hapless man-child and the butt of most of the jokes in the house, stumbling through the door with his work uniform in tatters. He reveals that he was kidnapped by two women, who threw him in the back of a van and helped themselves to him as he cooperated all night. Monroe is told by a detective to forget it happened, as the courts wouldn't believe that a man could be raped by a woman, anatomically speaking. Originally produced for the 4th season but not appearing until the 5th, this episode largely escaped notice, existing as little more than a legend after production on the show ceased until someone ripped a rerun in 2011 and uploaded it to YouTube. The retrospective criticism was widespread, not only for its take on male rape, but for its tongue-in-cheek debasement of an actor quite clearly in the closet.